You've probably seen the headlines flying around because, well, this story definitely made some noise. Spice Girls icon Mel B got married.
Yeah, big news.
But today, we're doing more than just, glancing at that news report from July 6th, 2025. We're really going deep.
Exactly.
Our mission here is to take these sources and actually pull out the surprising bits, the really interesting nuggets, and maybe figure out what an event like this tells us about public figures and their private lives.
And look, it might seem like just another celebrity wedding story on the surface.
Right.
But this deep dive, we're aiming to show you those layers, those details, the personal touches that often, get glossed over.
So you get a much fuller picture.
Exactly. A more complete and hopefully more satisfying understanding of what actually went down and why these little details often matter quite a bit.
Okay, so let's get right into it then. The main event, obviously, is the marriage of Mel B, Scary Spice herself, to Rory McPhee, who's a hairstylist. And it sounds like quite the event. Let's start with the ceremony.
All right, so they tied the knot on a Saturday in London. And what's really fascinating here, maybe a bit unexpected even, is the venue.
Oh, where was it?
They chose the crypt of St. Paul's Cathedral.
Wow, okay. That's heavy on the history.
It really is. A truly historic spot right underneath that massive, iconic landmark. For someone known globally as Scary Spice.
Yeah.
Choosing a place like that, it feels like a pretty profound statement. Maybe it suggests a journey from that sort of rebellious image to something maybe deeper, appreciating tradition, history.
That contrast is definitely a surprising nugget right there.
Yeah.
So, okay, grand traditional setting. What about her look? The sources mentioned a custom ivory gown.
She did wear one, yeah.
Yeah.
It was designed by Josephine Scott, described as having this really beautiful pearl-adorned neckline.
Nice.
And you get a real sense of the personal touch from the source material, too.
Yeah.
Caroline Black, who owns Evely Bridal Boutiques, she worked with Mel B on the dress.
Oh.
She described working with her as a dream and specifically pointed out that Mel B brought her own style to the whole thing.
Ah, okay. So it wasn't just purely traditional then.
Seems like her personality really shone through, even with a classic bridal gown in a historic place.
So vows exchanged in this really significant spot. What about afterwards, the reception? Where did the party move to?
Well, they hosted the reception at the Shangri-La Hotel.
Oh, up in the Shard.
That's the one, yeah, high up there. And like a lot of brides do these days, especially high-profile ones.
She's had a second dress.
Exactly. Changed into a second one for the party. This one was by designer Justin Alexander.
Okay, second dress. And the guest list, always a point of interest. Who is there celebrating with them? Any names mentioned?
Yeah, the reports specifically called out model Cara Delevingne,
Okay.
comedian Katherine Ryan, and Daisy Lowe.
Gavin Rossdale's daughter, right?
That's her. So quite an interesting mix of people, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. A blend of sort of current celeb scene and maybe longer-term connections.
Seems like it.
Now, for so many people listening, the really juicy part of any celeb wedding is the guest list drama, or lack thereof, especially with groups like the Spice Girls.
Ah, yes, the Spice Girls question.
Let's talk about that. Who represented the group? What does the source actually say?
Well, the source confirms that Emma Bunton, Baby Spice, was reportedly the only other Spice Girl there.
Only Emma. Wow.
Yeah. Specifically notes the absence of Victoria Beckham, Melanie C., and Jerry Halliwell.
So posh, sporty, and ginger weren't there.
Apparently not. And look, this isn't just about who RSVP. No, it kind of highlights something bigger, doesn't it?
Like what?
Like the enduring but maybe complicated dynamics of these really famous friendships. For a group like the Spice Girls, their bond is almost legendary part of the brand.
Totally.
So when one member has a huge life event like this and the others aren't there, well, it makes you think, doesn't it? About how those public images of lifelong friendship sometimes differ from the private reality.
That is pretty revealing, considering their history together. Okay, speaking of close ties, Mel B's daughters, they were more than just guests, right?
Oh, absolutely. They played a key role. Her daughters were her bridesmaids.
All of them.
Yep. Phoenix, who's 26, Angel, who is 18, and Madison, she's 13.
Wow, 26 down to 13. That really covers a span of her life.
It really does. Kind of emphasizes her whole journey,
Yeah.
and how important all her kids are in this next chapter.
And looking at the couple, Mel B and Rory McPhee, the source mentioned their ages.
It did. Mel B is 50, and Rory is 37. And they got engaged back in October 2022.
Okay, after dating for a bit?
Yeah, the report says they dated for 3 years before getting engaged.
And did we get any details on, like, the proposal itself?
We actually did. Mel B apparently shared the story on that UK show, Celebrity Gogglebox.
Oh, really? What did she say?
She described it as, well, super romantic, rose petals everywhere, a log fire.
Yeah.
All happening at Clive's house.
Sounds quite picturesque. Paints a nice, intimate picture.
Definitely.
And how did they even meet? What's the connection?
So the way they met, it seems, was through family. Mel B's cousin, the actor, Christian Cook, he's apparently friends with Rory, and introduced them.
Ah, okay. A friend of a cousin situation.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
And just for context, the source does mention this is Mel B's third marriage.
Right.
Her previous husbands were Jimmy Gulzar and Stephen Belafonte.
Yeah.
And, you know, the source notes she had accused Belafonte of abuse, allegations he has denied. We're just relaying that as background from the source material itself.
Understood. So, okay, we've unpacked the venue, the dresses, the guests, the family, the relationship history. Taking all these details together, why does this deep dive actually matter for you listening? What's the point beyond, just celebrity news?
Well, I think it's about way more than just gossip, right? It's really about trying to understand that that interesting mix of a huge public persona and these really private, personal moments.
Especially when those moments become public.
Exactly. And if you connect it to the bigger picture, you start seeing how public figures navigate being themselves, their authentic selves, when they're under this intense spotlight.
How so?
Well, think about the venue choice again, St. Paul's Crypt. For Scary Spice, like we said, that's quite a deliberate choice. It maybe signals something about personal growth, valuing tradition now, or the guest list who was there tells you about current close relationships, but who wasn't there. Well, that hints at the changing nature of those very public friendships we often just assume last forever.
Right, those dynamics.
These details, they are just random facts. They're like little windows, aren't they, into how someone's personal story evolves while everyone's watching, and how the choices they make privately can actually subtly reshape their public image over time.
So it lets you see those aha moments.
In the specifics, like seeing her daughters all there as bridesmaids, that family involvement, or pondering those Spice Girls dynamics, you only really glimpse that stuff by looking at the smaller details reported.
So, thinking about all that, what does this kind of event truly reveal about the balancing act celebrities have to perform between who they are projected to be and who they are in their most, intimate personal moments?
Especially when those moments end up under the microscope anyway.
Right.
And maybe it encourages you, the listener, to think about how, even with events that are plastered everywhere, the real understanding, the nuance, often comes from digging just a little deeper into those specific details the sources provide.
Looking beyond the headline.
Exactly, because those details can tell you so much more about someone's journey and their choices than you might initially think.